Uncovered in the heart of Hillcrest, a government operation hemorrhaging your tax dollars. But as I-Team reporter Mitch Blocker discovered, wasting taxpayer money is what it takes to follow federal rules.
Recruited to fight and to follow orders, no one can question their bravery. But back home, there are questions about this Hillcrest Army recruiting office that sits unused.
How long has this been empty?
It's been at least over a year.
The Army pays for and staffs this recruiting office, but just across the street in the Uptown Shopping Center, they have this office, and it sits empty.
Why have this space if you're not going to use it?
Exactly. That's what everyone in the center kind of wonders about.
We had the same questions the people working near the Army office had, especially after we found out it costs taxpayers nearly $40,000 a year in rent. The Army Corps of Engineers in Los Angeles, which leases the office for Army recruiting, would only answer our questions off camera, saying the office helps the Army meet a regulation.
Did they use the space?
No, I never see anyone in there ever working.
That regulation says Army recruiting offices have to have a certain number of square feet for each person working in the office. We were told because the original recruiting office in Hillcrest didn't have enough square footage to comply with this regulation, the second office in the Uptown Shopping Center had to be leased.
What's your reaction to how the Army is spending its money?
Well, I think it's another example of exactly the kind of pervasive regulatory insanity that you see in the federal government all across agencies.
Leslie Page works for Citizens Against Government Waste, a nonprofit in Washington, D.C.
There's no incentive in the government to look at $40,000 a year and say, this is a ridiculous use of the money. Let's figure out a way around it. Because it's other people's money.
We showed the ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform what we found. California Congressman Darrell Issa of Vista sent staffers to investigate. They found the same thing we found, an empty office. They sent these pictures back to the congressman and a report saying in part, it is clear the office is closed and not being used. That was enough for the congressman. He's now demanding answers from the Army Corps of Engineers commander in Los Angeles, who is responsible for leasing the recruiting office. Issa wrote him saying in part, taxpayers have a right to expect that their tax dollars are being put to appropriate use and are not wasted.
They've said, well, I mean, we're just following regulations. We're just following what we're supposed to do. And if it's expensive, so be it.
Well, of course. I mean, again, this is the taxpayers' money. It's not their money.
We took this story a step further, asking if there are other recruiting offices sitting empty and unused in the U.S. Our request is still being processed, and we'll let you know what we find. For the I-Team, I'm Mitch Blocker.